well as it. So when I went to record the initial interview, Barbara came out mostly perfect. Mostly
perfect. Story of my life.
Well, that's. Hey, I am very how do I put this? I am very, very honest. I find that honesty is a very important thing with my with everything. It's about being credible, right? Now people may still think you're crazy sometimes, right? But here's the thing: I'm honest like the whole time, and they think I'm only crazy half the time. Good, right? That means I'm a little dangerous, and I can live with that, right? But the idea is I'm just being genuinely honest. Like what happened was you mostly fine. Every once in a while you skip, which was a little weird, but you still got the general gist of what you said. Me, nothing. And I'm not sure what the hell happened there. Right? The first 30 minutes of it, like the first half we did the last time, I got everything. When we switched to the other one, it kind of just there's no me, there's no sound, there's nothing to pick up.
So it's just like me talking to myself?
Pretty much.
Oh, God. That would be horrible.
Yes, that's why it's like I said, Barbara, I can't air this. This is why I told you I couldn't air the last one. It's like I can't do it, right? Because it's I was like, okay, so that's why we're doing this now, here and now, because also unofficially, you're episode 902. 900
Ooh.
Goes on live a little bit later on today. I'm drawing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles with people. That's going to be my 900th. True story. I was trying to get Kevin Eastman for my 900th episode.
Oh, wow.
Also, true story. He's coming on the show next month. So I didn't get him for 900. Yeah, but I got him. Yeah, so I felt like I'll take the victory. Again, you take the victories you can.
Funny Ninja Turtle stories is that my son is 38 now, and he's a master sergeant in the military. But when he was like 4 or 5 years old, he was absolutely rabid for everything Ninja Turtles I could bring home from every convention. And I brought original sketches, and everything. I framed them, and he still has those. But eventually he grew out of the Ninja Turtles. And a few months ago, he calls me and goes, "Mom, you wouldn't happen to have any of my old Ninja Turtle stuff, would you?" Because Grayson, that's his son, who's now 4, is really all of a sudden he's into Ninja Turtles. And I said, "I have everything."
And he's like,
I kept tubs of totes of everything. I never threw a single thing away of all that stuff. The Ghostbusters, the Ninja Turtles, everything that I brought home. Goes, oh my God. So that kid, his son, now my grandson, is just, it's been 30 years.
Yeah.
And now it's just as big now as it ever was.
I still collect the comic. It's one of the few actually mainstream comics I still collect.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And partly because, way back, this was now 8-9 years ago, or maybe 10 years ago, actually now. Holy crap, it's at 134 issues. So it's been around for a while, the current run. I saw number 1. I saw Kevin Eastman's name on it. Right? I saw a comic book dude, Tom Waltz, who I talked to online. He seemed like a really cool dude. It's like, I'm in. I don't care. I'm in. This will be fun. It's my longest and lasting book. It's outlasted everything.
Yeah.
Even stuff I didn't think it would outlast. Like, for example, there's no Green Lantern book in DC right now.
Oh, that's sad.
That is. That makes me very, very sad, actually. Very, 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 very sad. But there's an Ninja Turtles, which is right? And it's doing well. It's got a steady audience, even in this crazy time.
Yep. For me, it's ElfQuest. I've been collecting ElfQuest for this, since the mid 80s, and it's still coming out.
Yeah, I thought it ended. I thought they actually did the final chapter of it like a couple years ago.
Well, no, actually, they got interrupted with COVID, so it's just now.
Yeah,
they're doing it. They decided to end it with a graphic novel instead.
Yeah, which is totally fine.
Mm-hmm.
That's their bad boy. That's their creation. That's their.
But they've said they're done before too.
They have, but there does come a point, I think, with all of us. It's like It's like when there's just a certain age, you don't make stuff as fast as you used to. Like there comes a point in this,
No, that's true. Very true.
right? There comes a point, and once you come to that point, and I think Richard and Wendy would probably be honest enough with themselves to say, we can still do a book, but it now takes us 6 months to do one issue instead of 2 or 3.
Mhm.
And when he gets to that point, now some people get a pass. Like for example, when he was still alive, when George Perez was doing Silence Room, I didn't care when it came out. It was George Perez.
Oh, yeah,
I
absolutely.
I
George
didn't
was
care.
an amazing person.
Yeah, yeah. Oh no, he was right. The other one, for example, is Ragnarok, the one done by the Simonsons. They get the
Mhm.
same pass. It's like
Oh, yep.
they get the same pass. Like we don't care when your books come out. Just come out. Take my money. Shut up. I'm good. I don't care how fast you go. Right. So right, but very few people get to that point. Right. There are a few that do, but like I said, when you have a long career in comics and then you're doing what you're doing, you have to accept the fact that there's a shelf life in terms of how long, like even though it's not quite an athletic career, there is a shelf life of how fast you can constantly
Oh,
make stuff.
absolutely. I mean, I'm in my 60s now, and when I was at my height, I was churning out a minimum of 2 issues a month.
Mhm.
That's 2 pages a day, 2 pages of inks a day, plus covers, plus cards, plus whatever else there was. There's no way I could keep that up now.
No.
Fortunately, I have my own book, so I don't have to. So,
Well,
you know.
that's true. But I mean, that's the thing, right? It comes to a point, it just comes to a big point that you have to accept the fact that okay, I am not as fast. So what cool shit matters to me,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's where they're at. Like they might want to tell another different story than ElfQuest. Then again, I'm sure they might come back. I mean, the cool thing about telling a story from beginning to end, there's all kinds of little like spaces in your story where you're like, hey, I can tell a story here. I can tell a story here.
Offshoot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Exactly.
Spin-off. Oh, yeah.
I love Stephen King's Dark Tower, but he finished this series in 2001, 2002, but he went back I think 10 years later and did like Win Through the Keyhole, which is just like, you know what? This is for you guys. I'm having some fun. This is just a fun book for you. Thank you for supporting me. Here you go. You told a story. It's done.
Also, there's the factor of burnout too. I mean, there's artists who like tell a story for so long that they're finally just tired of telling that story, and they want to go on to other things. They've got other ideas and avenues that they want to explore. But 10 years down the road, all of a sudden they've got a fresh idea and they're excited again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they want to go back to the old, tried and true, and tell another story there.
Well, I mean, there's a healthy balance. Like in the end, both the book writing and comic industry, this is where it gets hard. You get known for something.
Hmm. And then everybody wants you to keep doing it forever and
Yeah,
ever and
yeah,
ever.
yeah. And that's the thing. And there's a balance between. So I have this is my theory. This is something I heard from Kevin Smith, and I actually agree with him. If you do an issue, if you do work, at the first time you do, it's for you. But if you
Mhm.
do any sequels, if you do anything like that, you're servicing your fans.
That's right.
I think he's absolutely correct on that. And there's nothing wrong with that. Look, if I came up with something stupid and silly and everybody wanted me to keep retelling that, that's an incredibly flattering proposition. Now, I am a little crazy and I will definitely want to do other things, and because that will send me down a very short trip very fast if I'm just doing the same story over and over and over and over again. But I'm enough of a businessman to go, okay, you guys like this? Let's just keep telling the story, right? I'll figure out a way to do it.
Yeah, Arthur Conan Doyle was hired to do a serial of Sherlock Holmes, and he did it, and everybody loved it so much. He wanted to quit that book so bad, the serial. He hated it, and he
Yeah.
eventually did quit it, but people clamored for it for so long and so loud that eventually they drug him back in and he did some more books. He didn't want to, but he did it because he was being pressured to.
Well, yeah, and he hated Holmes. The thing was, he hated Holmes. You could tell like for him in his case, this is actually the other important thing. The first one better be for you, because because you don't know what becomes a hit, right?
Mhm.
If you don't know what becomes a hit, you better like it on some level, because if not, the world's gonna find ways for you to keep doing
Mhm.
it and keep
And
doing it.
the original Sherlock Holmes was actually a serial that showed up in the paper.
Yeah.
Little snippets, you know? And so he was hired by this paper to do this, and it's too bad that he didn't like it because it's an iconic, story.
Well, you can definitely tell he didn't like it, because just how he told it when he came back. He was not consistent with the characterization of
Mm-mm.
Holmes at all, right? He just
Yeah.
didn't care,
He
because he
was
also
phoning it in.
big time. He didn't want to do it. But I mean, it's one of those things where, again, you just look at it, it's like the money's too good,
That's
right?
right.
I mean, say what you will about Orson Scott Card, say what you will about some of the other authors out there. There's lots of authors that make their living, a lot of you comic creators, 1 or 2 books. That's it. That's what they make their living doing. I'm a big fan of Travis Hanson. I don't know if you know who Travis Hanson is.
No.
No, but he does a bunch of like these comics, like online comic stuff. It's one story, Life of the Party. Kicks all kinds of ass doing it, right? Nothing wrong with that, right? I mean, and some people keep going, and then there's people like Terry Moore, who constantly makes this little universe. And in that
Strangers in Paradise?
Strangers in Paradise. For me, it's Rachel Rising, but no, Terry's great. Like, Terry is one of the best. He's one of the best people doing comics today. I don't think people give him the credit he deserves. I had a buddy of mine in the industry look at his books. He's like, yeah, he has some of the best books every month. His issue is covers. His cover, like, he's one of the best interior guys you'll ever meet. But in this guy's opinion was the cover. If he had someone doing a different cover to draw people in every month, he'd make more money. And I'm actually of the mindset they're correct, because again, the books are smaller. They don't seem like they're dense, but actually when you read them, they're super dense books.
Yeah. Strangers in Paradise is one of my favorite all-time series.
It's great. It's a great book.
Well, he's managed to do a soap opera that mixes, the soap opera aspects with action, with mystery. It's all,
Espionage.
yeah,
Yeah.
espionage. It's all wrapped up into one little neat package.
My favorite thing he ever done is actually a book called Motor Girl. It's short. It's one of the shorter ones.
Mhm.
It's about a gal that had some PTSD and some trauma. She has an imaginary gorilla she talks to.
Oh my God. I'm gonna have
It's
to look
good.
that one up.
It's super. The ending is super. It's kind of heartbreaking, but it's not an unhappy ending exactly, but it is a little heartbreaking when you get to the end of it. And it was like, I think this is the best thing you've ever done, right? But it's not the thing he's known for. Like, he's known for Strangers in Paradise, and he's known for Rachel Rising, secondly, and most notably the child serial killer he has in Rachel Rising gets her own book, and it's called Serial. So,
There's an
uh,
offshoot. Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, and they're all offshoots of Stranger. Got
Yeah.
all these books will tie into the Strangers in Paradise universe.
Now, are those still coming out by Abstract Studio, or is he bringing them out through?
No, they're coming out through Abstract. Like right now,
Okay.
his current series is called Parker Girls, which is ties into the Katsu of Strangers in Paradise.
Mhm,
That was her
mhm.
organization once upon a time in a galaxy
Right.
far, far away. So they're tying that in her espionage service into like their own little story.
Mhm.
This one dude, he picked on this one dude for 3 straight issues, right? It's just like the guys, they finally just, it's not even a main character, just a
I'm
sub
gonna have to
character.
look that one up because I love all the aspects of the, Strangers in Paradise universe, so
Yeah,
all
yeah.
of the little offshoots.
All the books he's made since Strangers have all tie into that universe in some way or another. Now, they're not necessarily the same stories, but
Mhm.
they all tie in either small ways, big ways, right? And you watch it, and so you get to catch up on some of your favorite characters. Like I said, he's one of the best creators in the business, in my opinion.
Those
But again,
ideas are fresh, you know?
well, it's he's having fun. It's not
Mhm.
even like the freshness. It's not even the freshness of the ideas. It's the fact that um him and Bill Maws have kind of like the same kind of philosophy. I'm going to tell a fun story.
Okay.
Now, right, that's it, right? That like Bill Maws is the same thing
Yeah.
with Naira, right? Naira doesn't make sense in a giant context, but he knows that.
Well, it comes through in the story if you can tell that you're enjoying yourself,
Yeah,
and other people will jump on board and go along for the ride.
yeah. Like actually, so I'm actually so I had a weird month in the sense that my storage locker, got broken into at the beginning of the month, which is so. This is kind of like a weird like good news / bad news thing, and this is something I'm taking care of tomorrow when the holiday is done. I have to call the insurance company. They stole 3 long boxes of comics. Now here's listen. So robberies make no sense. They never do. So once upon a time when I was in my 20s, I still lived with my dad. Our apartment got broken into, or like late teens, early 20s, and I'll never forget. There's 3 items I will never forget that were stolen. First off, there was frozen blueberries were stolen. They were frozen blueberries. Sounds funny, right? Here's the one that still bakes my noodle to this day because it makes no sense. They stole the coffee beans, but they left the container completely empty.
So where do they put I mean, they just dumped the coffee?
This is then you now understand my like again. It makes no sense.
No.
They could have just taken the whole container. They didn't. They just
took the beans out of the container.
You're
yeah. Right. That makes no sense.
No, it doesn't. This is one of those like again. I can't make this shit up, and I'm not making this shit up because again, it sounds too peculiar, right? And then they left a whole bunch of hamburger in the sink. All right. So again, robberies make no sense. This one makes less sense. They stole 3 long boxes of comics. I'm guessing it was because it was on December 1st. Storage locker. Someone was getting kicked out of their storage locker. They were grabbing what they could and they bailed, and they were breaking into a bunch of different lockers, and one was mine. So here's the thing. I said this here, very, 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 very thing. I know the books, like in general, the average cost of each book, but I don't know every single issue that was taken. And there's no way I can know that.
Whether there's collectibles in there or what,
Well, here's the thing. This might have worked out in my favor. That's the reality, right? Because going by retail price, like a big long box holds about 200 books, give or take, right? So an average of $3, because some of them are 3, some of them are 4, but like some of them are $2.50, but on average $3. It's 3 long boxes. I know one of those boxes had a series called Silencer from DC Comics that's worth absolutely, like in the grand scheme of things, isn't worth that much. So I might have actually like sold a whole bunch of stuff.
Find them in the quarter bin.
Yeah. And so, right. And I might have just gotten rid of a whole bunch of stuff at full value for nothing.
That's right.
Not doing anything. So in an odd way, it works out. And it's like one of those magical little moments in life where you just look at it and go, well, this might have been a blessing in disguise.
Now you can go out and buy more comics.
Nope. Buying a van.
A van. So you can hold your comics.
No. I'm cutting my comic. I have like 20 or so long boxes. I'm going to cut that to 4 or 5. I'm going to pick.
I've got, I don't know if you can see over here. I've got my long boxes are.
Yeah.
Under.
I see that.
There.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. No, so I've been cutting books. I'm going to eventually cut. Like I didn't do it this month because I had to let the insurance company go through my storage stuff, right? So I didn't touch my locker this month. But next month I'm going to be grabbing comic book stuff. I'm going to be eBaying what I can, getting rid of like the leftover stuff that's not worth anything when it's all said and done. And then I'm going to look at my favorite runs of books. Like there's some books that I really, really like, and there's some that I really, really don't. Right. Like it's, you know what I'm saying? Like you got to feel something, which is the whole point, right?
Right. My philosophy is if I haven't read it in 20 years, it's time to get rid of it. I'm down to 6 long boxes. The great thing is the show promoter that I've been dealing with lately lets me sell. lets me sell anything I want to on an extra table. So my main table is all of my books, my current books, my artwork, prints, and stuff like that. And over here on a side table, I've just been downsizing my own stuff.
Yeah,
So I've been selling it at the shows I go to. Um,
yeah,
so I'm now down to 6 long boxes, and I think that's
and
about where a really
yeah.
nice, comfortable place.
Well, oh, that's come down to success less to give. Okay, well, that's fair. That's fair. No, like for me, like there's a few like series all time. Like for example, um, Barry Windsor Smith's Archer and Armstrong. Just that run, not the
Mhm.
later stuff, but that run is hilarious to me.
Of course,
And
that's
Barry was
not
at
counting graphic novels. I have a huge bookcase that is still
I,
full of graphic novels. I don't think I'll ever be able to get rid of those.
I'm doing all of it, but like again, the stuff that makes me still feel something. And
Mhm.
then so the show is going to hit 1,000 episodes in by probably May next year, right? And then at the end of that, I'm going to go on the road with the show.
There you
So
go.
I am too old to give a shit about much, right? Like I'm looking for adventure and connection. And one of the things at my age I've learned in life is you can't wait for people, first and foremost. You just can't. Either they're there or they're not. And the second thing is you can't be afraid to go out there and then seek the world. Yes. For a
Well,
very, very long time. Very,
yeah.
very long time.
And I mean, that's a huge reason why I cut away from inking and
Yeah.
jumped into writing and coloring as well, is because I hit 60 and I'm like, I've been inking for over 30 years. And I'm good at it, but I'm too comfortable
Mhm.
in just doing this. I could do this for the rest of my life and be happy, but if I ever wanted to push the envelope and really live, now is the time to do it. So I
It
started writing, I learned how to color. I am having a blast. I am living my best life.
yeah, well, that's been the last 3 years for me. I left a decent paying job, or let's say I'm not gonna say great job, but not a bad one. And it was like I'd been there for 10 years, so almost 10 years. It was like, well, if I don't do this now, I'll never leave. But I need to go. And I have 10 rules of success. The eighth rule is stay uncomfortable. Right? The eighth rule is stay uncomfortable. You just have to stay uncomfortable. And every year, like especially this time of year, I'm evaluating what I want. And for me at this point, I don't need to like I'm grateful for where I'm at. It's not like I'm ungrateful, but it's like I don't need to be here. And then like now it's just like when you have that thought, it's like, where do you want to go? I don't know. But I could find out by going to all these different places and um this is the week
Arthur
of
Goddess,
playing.
yeah, plotting to take
Yeah,
over the
yeah.
world.
Oh, I don't want to take over the world. I'm just secretly becoming a rock star, or not so secretly becoming a rock star. I've just I've learned that again. What I want next year is adventure and connection. And people here, for whatever reason, don't want to connect. So I'm not going to fight this. I'm going to let people do what they want, and I'm going to do what I want. And I'm going to let people go out and do their thing, and I'm going to do mine. And somewhere out there over the rainbow, I'm going to find what I'm looking for, right? One way or the other. I might find a small town in the middle of the United States somewhere, meet someone, fall in love. Who knows? Then again, maybe I just go all over, meet all the people I have had the pleasure of meeting in the last 3 years since the pandemic, and actually get to do crazy shit with all of them.
Mhm.
That doesn't sound like a bad life. For
Yeah.
all things considered, it doesn't really sound like that bad of a life. And I did not have everything that people traditionally have, but I don't really care about that. I'm just me.
I
So
think I think if Divinity became a hit, that would be a crowning achievement to
yeah.
me because I've always been, the inker is always kind of like uh there, you know.
Mhm.
They're part of a team, but you always anytime you go on Amazon and look at a book, or it's always the writer and the penciler. And then, oh yeah, there was an inker and a colorist and a letterer too, somewhere along the way. And I would like to leave my mark once with something really, really special. And I'd like it to be
I
my
would
own
argue
book.
you've already done that, but but you gotta, but it's about pushing yourself to see who you are and what you're capable of doing, and that I understand completely. But okay, so this show has been look at 902 episodes. Like seriously, I've done a lot of these things,
Yes, you have. That takes a
right?
lot of
Yeah, yeah. So like,
energy.
well, it just you gotta love. Again, comes down to loving what you're doing too, right? What it comes down to is this. Now, regardless of what I do next, I'm going to have 1,000 episodes that were audio, then audio driven. The show's constantly evolved. And the next thing is now I'm going to go on the road and I'm going to do a completely different version of the same show in a
Mhm,
very different way. Right. Because
mhm.
again, I have a definitive goal of what I want to do. And I'm getting there bit by bit by bit by bit by bit. So, but what this means is I'm here, like looking at all this stuff I have, I'm not going to enjoy for years to come. So why the fuck would I keep it? And except maybe a handful of things like personal stuff. Like I have an award for this show. I actually won an award. Apparently I'm good at this. Don't tell anybody. But I have an award. I'll keep that. I have my dad's Bible. I'll keep that. I have my sister's bought me a globe. I'll keep the stuff that has sentiment and value to me personally. I'll keep that stuff. But the
Yeah, I
rest of
mean,
it,
no matter what happens, I know that I've got over 6,000 pages of inks out there that people have enjoyed. So I mean, that is an accomplishment.
it's a huge
Um,
one.
yeah.
It doesn't get the love necessary. Okay, letterers get the least amount of love
Oh
in the
yeah.
industry by a shot, and they're ironically the most fun. Some of the most fundamental, important parts of the comic is the lettering. Period. But they do not get the love. They just don't.
Mm-mm.
Colorists get more respect now than they did 20 years ago because of the nature of how technology has changed coloring. But they still don't get the same love that an illustrator does or the writer does,
Yeah.
right? Right? And inking, it really depends. Like inking's evolved to such a degree that it almost are a handful of inking jobs that are traditionally done, which I'm sure you probably still have access to here and there if you wanted to do it. You have the cachet to grab those jobs. But it's also because inking and penciling are now so intertwined that
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. That's one thing is that I mean, everybody's looking to pinch pennies, and I get that. It's paper costs are up, sales of books are down. You've gotta make the money where you can, and the best way to do that is to hire an artist who will do the pencils and inks all
yeah,
in one shot because it's only costs about 1.5 times what it would cost to pay 2 full salaries for a penciler and an inker.
yeah,
Um, and I get that. I do that. I do get that. But on the other hand, it's a shame.
yeah.
I did all original art for 30 plus years.
Mhm.
And now I go to shows and I try to sell that art, and very few people are buying original art anymore. It doesn't seem like it's that important to people anymore. Um,
It ebbs and flows. Right? This okay, it's also that like this particular market sucks. Like let's just be honest
mhm,
here. This particular market sucks. Um this is a market about I mean, this is something I'm aware of too as I'm selling my collection, right? Is I might not get the money right this minute I would get if I could hold on to some of it. But for me, it's more the practicality of I have a fuck ton of shit I'm not going to enjoy anymore. And I can use it to get something I will enjoy doing
mhm.
for the next at least a couple of years.
On the other hand, on the whole flip side of that, I've gone to digital,
Yeah.
and people's like, I thought you would never go to digital. I'm like, yeah, well, there was a time when I said, hey, I will never, never do anything but original art. Um, yeah, when I hit 60 and my hands weren't quite as steady as they were before, and I found that I could turn up the smoothing control on a iPad, digital inking sounded pretty good, yeah, damn good to me. And that tiny little iPad, I can take it anywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I don't have to have my drawing board anymore. I've got two iPads behind me here. You can see them sitting over there. Um, it's fantastic. I can take that on. You could take it on the road with you. You know,
Exactly. Well,
you
the
can do it from anywhere, and it has sped me up quite a bit.
Yeah, no, the beautiful thing about what we do today, like both of us, whether I'm writing books or podcasting, is I can go anywhere and do this. Like
Mhm.
that doesn't that's the
You're
other
not tied
aspect.
down.
I don't again, if I'm in a city to work, this is where I'm at in my life. If I'm in a city to work, by and large, I don't have to be there anymore doing stuff like this. I don't. So why do that? If I'm working, I can go to a beach, and like I said, I can go to a beach in San Diego. Like I said, I can lay there, hit on women half my age, and where I can goof off and have a good time, right, and not worry about it, right, and that's the whole wonderful thing about this is we live in a world today where you can print all this work we're doing by and large. There's a lot more options to pick and choose where you want to work. So if I decide that I want to work on a mountaintop in Colorado, I can do that. If I work at a beach in San Diego, I can do that.
And there
If I
are a lot of people realizing that now. COVID made a huge impact on the way we work.
Yeah, well, okay, so COVID, this is what COVID's done. This and this is the thing. It has just this is the one I'll say the best thing COVID did by and large is this. It allowed for the fact it made people realize that by and large the typical relationship an employer has with an employee doesn't really exist anymore. There's some bad that comes with that too, but all in all, leverage has kind of gone more towards the worker in this
Yeah.
regard right now than it
Mhm.
ever has in the past. I don't got it. Like, okay, I have a side gig right now working at the Saddle Dome for a hockey team. I have to be there for that. But once May rolls around, like once the playoffs are done and my team gets probably eliminated in some round, that's it, right? I'm done. So I say it like that because I say it like that because that's the reality of where we're at and where we're going, and there's a very few jobs that require you to be in the same city as the place of employment anymore. Uh,
Especially circling back to comics, especially in comics.
yeah,
I mean, if you a lot of the big two artists a lot of them aren't even American anymore. You can get art from anywhere in the world because we have become such a small
yeah,
world because of the internet and stuff like that. Everything is shot through Dropbox or digitally, an email art. You can work anywhere in the world these days. You can lay on a beach in Cabo Cabo and do your book and shoot it off to your editor in New York, and then he shoots it off to your inker who lives in, you know,
actually,
Patagonia.
do you want to hear the weirdest thing I think honestly about the publishing industry, not just comics, but the publishing industry in general? Why are you still based in New York and Los Angeles?
Oh yeah, expensive real estate. Jesus.
Well, no, I mean seriously, it makes no sense. You can literally, I mean, if you got to have an office in there to pitch to, like, so let's say you're in LA because Hollywood's in LA and you want to regularly pitch with producers. Okay, that kind of makes sense. You could just rent a suite and have a few people work there. That's all they do, and you can actually have DC's comics actors in like I'm just a random city in the United States. We'll say Jackson, Michigan, just as a random, or Jackson, Florida. I think there's a Jackson, Florida too, and you could literally do that, and it wouldn't change a damn thing really at this point,
Nope.
right?
Nope.
Right?
Mm-mm.
Right? It's just you're no longer hip and trending, but you've saved hundreds of thousands of dollars in rent alone.
Yeah, in rent alone, absolutely.
Yep.
Um, I'm a part of Silverline Comics. I'm the CFO of Silverline. Roland is my boss, I guess you would call him. He lives in Florida. He's my one of my partners, I should say. He lives in Florida. I live in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Dean Zachary lives outside of Nashville. One of our guys lives in Seattle. One of our guys, lives in Buffalo. Two of our guys lives in Buffalo, New York. Those poor guys.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. No one likes buffalo. It's true.
um,
No one likes
and
buffalo.
we're all over the place. But with Zoom
Yeah.
and Messenger, we can get together.
Yeah.
You know,
And if Roland wants to pitch something to a producer, or you want to pitch something, you can do that.
Yeah.
Right now, there are advantages in that particular case to be in the same city, but even so, you don't really have to. And that's the thing. I'm producing podcasts. I'm creating shows for clients. That's what I'm slowly doing more work. I literally got myself a client gig the day before Christmas Eve. That was my last bit of work. It's like, hey, tiny job, not a big job, but a tiny job that I'm going to be regularly doing starting next month. And it's like I'm in Canada, they're in the States, right? So it's and they're based out of Tennessee. So I have another possible podcast producing gig based out of Las Vegas, and I have the show here. So I mean, my work office space can literally be anywhere I want it to be, and
my
that's the thing.
workspace is an armchair behind me.
Yeah, exactly. That's it, right? You don't gotta do anything, and that's the joy of living today. Is we have this freedom, but I mean, there are some downsides to it. There are some, like
Isolation.
it can be, yes. There's that isolation aspect to it,
That's why
but
I do
there's also
shows.
what?
That's why I do shows. Get out
Yeah.
and meet. Of course,
Well,
last show I did, I got COVID, so that was not fun. But mostly, I could sit in this room here, in this chair, and just do art forever and never step out of my house. But you become cut off. You're not touching the live wire of your audience unless you
well,
actually go out. So once a month I do a show somewhere and I actually talk to people.
yeah. Well, no, I go. Well, I talk to people here, but I also, yeah, I'm trying. Like going back to what we said off the air. I've been trying to reach out to people here just to hang out. And there's some people have said yes, but by and large, it's been like pulling teeth to get people to come and do stuff. And it's like, okay, this also, I do think that fades away as the years go by a little bit, right? As time goes on, I think people become a little bit more lucid to hanging out again, just as this becomes more normalized, right? Right? Oh, totally. Lots of people will hang out, but some places there are people that won't hang out, right? That's the thing, Author Goddess, right? Is there are people, places, and you have to recognize where people are at. Like, okay, literally, I mean, this is just how I realize how charmed my life is in a lot of ways. On Tuesday, I had sushi with a pop singer I know. That I knew her when she was 15. She's 20 now, and her and her mom, they were in Dubai up until like 2 weeks ago, so doing their career stuff there, and that now they're coming here, and they have their plans to take over the world, and it's a wonderful thing. And I realize like this is where my life is kind of a blessing, in that I get to meet people like you and everybody else I've had on the show, and I'm having conversations with people from all over the spectrum in terms of what they create, where they stand, all that stuff. It's cool. I get to go walk in between all of those places. That's pretty fucking cool. And I
It
realized I was
is.
like, so, and I've created that niche for myself, and I want to
You can
walk
kind
in,
of travel the world without ever getting out of your chair.
kind of, but I want to actually travel without.
Yes,
Oh
I do
yeah,
too.
I want to travel. I don't want to. The other, here's the other problem with this. This is what happens with this is a bubble. As much as I can open myself up to seeing people, the thing about Facebook, that's Facebook and Twitter and all these places, that is the good and bad thing is I can communicate with anybody, but I can also filter things out I don't agree with, I'm not comfortable with, all that stuff.
Mhm.
You need a little bit of that stuff, that little bit of that uncomfortable stuff in your life, because if nothing else, it'll force you to eventually, whether you want to or not, sooner or later, you're going to have to examine that stuff and why you're so uncomfortable. Now, and I'm not talking like the racial bullshit kind of stuff. I'm talking, you're thinking different than I do. Why are you thinking like this? And when it's like this, and then eventually you realize, well, maybe they're onto something and I'm on something. But that requires
My my
maturity
cat
and
is trying to get in. She's if you hear it in noise back there, it's my cat
that's
knocking on the door.
that's okay. I've had a 3-year-old hold this show hostage. I think a kitty is not the end of the world. One of my author friends, they based out of in the Midwest. Her son at 3 years old came in and did like, again. She's being a mom, and she's the center of his world. Like, mommy, and it's like, I know my place in the universe. A 3-year-old can take over at any time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I have grandkids, I know.
Yeah, exactly. They just take over. So, but again, that's the world we live in. Like, this is a bubble. And the problem with bubbles is you can get really set in your ways, and you don't grow unless you're uncomfortable. I don't want to become one of those, like, I don't want to be, I don't want to become quiet. Like, small towns are nice in the sense that they're quiet, but but there's also this sense of, again, there's a bubble, there's an
Mm.
expectation, that's all you got to fulfill, and you never grow because you're always in that comfort zone. Going back to something we
And
said, yeah,
again, that's why I force myself to go to these shows because I'm naturally an introvert. I would love to sit here for the rest of my life in my little cubby, and I would be perfectly comfortable. But I have that's not realistic. And so I push myself to go to at least one show a month, to meet
hmm
people, to talk. The first time I ever went to San Diego Comic Con, back in the 80s, I was terrified. I shook almost the whole time because there were so many people. I wasn't even a pro yet. It was just as a
yeah,
fan,
yeah, yeah.
and I had to teach myself how to walk up to somebody and say, "Hi, my name is Barb Kaalberg, and I'd like you to look at my portfolio." It was forcibly having to push myself out there to meet people, and it became a challenge to me to do this, to be on. You have to be on at these shows, and it's uncomfortable sometimes, but it's also necessary.
You don't grow like one of the very one of I was a guest on a show, and actually with my potential person I'm working for in Las Vegas, he said this to me: "There's your comfort zone. There's where the magic happens."
Hmm.
He's right.
Hmm.
That's the reality of the situation is, we lit. If you're comfortable, I had a buddy I talked to over the holidays at Christmas, and I don't knock his life choices. He's making he made a lot of money doing what he was doing, and he's comfortable with it,
Hmm.
right? There's nothing wrong with that, but because he never took certain risk, I think there's always going to be a part of him that's always going to wonder
What if?
what if, and he's got to live with that, and again, there's nothing wrong with. I gotta say the flip side of this: if you're happy what you're doing, there's nothing wrong being a little comfortable doing it. That's where you're supposed to be, right. It's but if you truly want to see what you're capable of, you got to push yourself. It's the only
And
way
you
to
can't be
do it.
afraid to fail either,
Yeah.
you know?
Oh, you're gonna get your ass kicked. That's just the way it is. You're gonna get your ass kicked, and you have to learn. You have to learn what how to put this. You have to learn how to lose before you can learn how to win. It's kind of something.
Right.
It's something I've learned, and it's been part of freelancing. And you have to figure out what it is, where you fit, what you can do, and how you can do it.
This is
And
I tell newbies who come up to me and ask me for advice on how to get into the comics industry. Like, you're first of all, don't ever take anything personal. Okay? You go up to somebody and have them look at your portfolio, expect to get shredded. They're not being intentionally mean to you as a person. They are telling you what you're doing wrong in their eyes, and you have to listen to it. You have to pick it apart and and take the parts of their critique that you feel works for you and toss the rest and brush it off. It's anything in the entertainment industry is harsh. And if you can't take the heat, you got to get it. You don't even belong in the kitchen because there's always going to be somebody better than you. There's always going to be somebody more hungry than you. Um, and there's always going to be mean people out there who say, your stuff is crap. I hate it. And if you can't take that, you don't belong in the entertainment industry.
well, and the thing you gotta understand too is 96% of the shredding has
Mhm.
nothing to do with you. Again, we said this earlier, has nothing to do with you personally.
Right.
Outright has nothing to do with you personally. It's about you want the best product out there. People are going to tell you what they think will help make the best product out there. Now, you don't have to listen to everything everybody says.
Exactly. Like I said,
Right.
pick out the nuggets,
Yeah,
ditch the rest.
but at the same time, you better listen because
Mhm.
because
They're
if you
telling you
don't,
what they're hiring for.
yeah,
You know?
exactly. Right.
But
Exactly.
a lot of people say, well, he said, I'll never be an artist, so I'm going to quit. Well, then you
Yeah.
weren't cut out for this in the first place. You cannot quit. I went out first year and I took first year to San Diego. I took everything plus the kitchen sink, everything you shouldn't take. I had a portfolio the size of China slung over my shoulders, and everything I did back to high school. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I just got
It's
on a plane and went. You know, um, and I was just shredded up one side and down the other. But I listened, and I came back, and I
mhm.
sat there at my drawing board, and I practiced for a solid year every day. And I came back out the next year, and I was better, but I was just barely acceptable. And I got hired to do gray washes on for Eternity Comics. That's not inking, that's just doing watercolor, gray washes for a black and white comic. But I took it, and I eventually got good enough that I got switched to inking. But the thing is, you learn every time you go out, you learn more, and they'll tell you what you're doing wrong. So I thought, well, I'm in comics now. Yay! I'm working on Planet of the Apes. I have hit the big time. So right
That's
after
still
I
that's still
got,
cool.
I
That's still
know,
yeah, still pretty
but it's
freaking cool.
yeah, it was a black and white comic. So I packed my portfolio and I headed for New York. And I went to DC and Marvel because I thought, well, now I've got a book under my belt. I'm going to get hired. Yeah, that doesn't work that way.
No,
uh,
but see, younger you
but I
see,
listened to
I
those
am
too. They critiqued everything I did there in Marvel and DC offices, and I learned more. And eventually I
but
was hired by DC and Marvel.
yeah, well, see, well, I was gonna say probably who you pitched it to. I'm just curious, the people that ripped you up, were they the same people that hired you?
No, no, it
Okay.
wasn't. By the time I got hired by DC and Marvel, the person, and this is actually a funny story. I went to an editor, the DC editor that I sat down with was a very well known DC editor, and he was going through my Planet of the Apes stuff. He said, you know, this is pretty good. You're on the right track. This is very strange, but you ink like a man, whatever the hell that means. And
Okay.
I'm like, okay. So he's looking through it and he goes, I'll tell you what, if we ever do monkeys, I'll think of you. And that was the end of the review. I'm not going to say who it was, but about a year or
That's
so
that
later, I was working for them. different editors.
No, it's how do I put this? See, here's the other thing. Here's what I was gonna say. Like I've noticed this. It's not about this is gonna sound almost like probably at first it was about how good you were. First time you went, definitely was about how good you were. The second time you went, see, they probably had a bit of a shit-eating grin on their face when they're looking at you shit too, because you have balls. Like, right. Yeah, I mean, because that's the thing, right? Like, there is something to be said about putting yourself out there and letting yourself be seen. And it's one of the most important parts about this business. Doesn't matter if, by the way, it doesn't matter if it's comics or even writing. You just put yourself out there.
Or music or whatever.
Yeah, it doesn't matter, right? You just put yourself out there. You let yourself go out in a public forum of some kind, right? And so I accidentally got published. Do you want to hear the story about how I accidentally got published?
Absolutely, I do.
So I did. I wanted. So I got back. So I had finally recovered enough from my ordeal in Arizona to go, okay, I'm gonna get back into this again. Let's do this right. I did a poetry collection back in 2005. It's like, I'll do this again. So we'll start where I knew before, but we're gonna do this a little different, more different than I ever imagined it would actually work out. I started with, I wanted to do a longer poem, but I wanted to do it like a story. So I did a story about a slave boy looking up in this tower, and this compound is being run by dragons. It's just really interesting, like little like world I built by kind of just a whim. I did the first part of it, which is just about him looking to the tower, wondering what's out there, looking at all this, and I'm like, this is pretty freaking cool. What happens next? So I wrote the second chapter. Kills his dragon master and goes into the wilderness. Okay, I gotta know what happens next. Chapter 3, he's first night alone and dealing with killing with somebody. I cannot end it there. So I just kept going. And then I realized after I got to about the 6th chapter that this was my poetry story. This was my Gilgameshian kind of epic kind of thing. And I got this idea when I finished. I wrote it actually relatively quickly. And then I got this idea to put some pictures into it. And it just so happened that I went to a comic shop. And someone I worked with at a Kinko's had actually done some comic work. And I looked at her, so I was like, would you do some illustrations for me? And she did, sure enough, she agreed to do it. It was kind of like one of those small world moments. And so the whole goal was create a digital work, I put on Smashwords, and I'd sell some physical stuff at shows. That was the plan. Someone I interviewed looked at the work, goes, this is pretty good. What are you going to do with it? And I just told you. So she goes to me, well, listen, I just made a deal with Ingram. I'm going to start a publishing house. I'll publish it. Okay. You put yourself out there, things happen, right? Right. Yeah, I accidentally wrote the book. This was not the plan, but this is what I ended up doing. Followed through.
Fell into it.
Yeah, that's it. Right. And that's the only thing I did that other people hadn't done, is a lot of people don't do, is I just put myself out there.
That's right.
That's it.
That's right.
That's it. That's all there is to it. You get that. You do that. That is, I find, 90% of the battle. How good you are doesn't really matter at that point. And it sounds really weird about saying it like that, but
oh no, there's better people, better artists out there than me, but I just keep at it. Go out, go for it, you know?
Well, you go out there and you put yourself in positions to, again, let people see your work, not in as big a way as you possibly know how. Things happen, right? So I currently have 6 books to my name. One of them is an award-nominated chap for poetry. I did an Alice in Wonderland Greek mythology mashup. I made Alice Pandora. Cool. Yeah. So I done that. My next book release is going to be my first attempt at trying to copy Dr. Seuss. And I mean, so
I love Dr. Seuss.
Everybody loves Dr. Seuss.
Everybody loves Dr. Seuss.
He is, in my opinion, one of the top 3 graphic novelists of all time, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. Right?
I think we touched on this before. I absolutely agree.
Yeah, he's number 3 on my list. Right? He's not a traditional graphic novelist, comic book illustrator, but if you look at the one I always look at is Fox and Socks. That one in particular, you could put comic bubbles to the characters going back and forth, and it would actually work. It would totally.
Green eggs and ham.
Yeah, that one is his most brilliant work. because that one is 50 words and a bunch of pictures, and holy shit, right? I wrote an AB like writing like Seuss breaks the brain a little bit breaks the brain because it's not as easy as it looks. But so I gotta get a letterer, and then once the letterer is done, I'm gonna actually draw the cover, which is gonna be because it's called the Stick Figure Revolution. It's about stick figures revolting against their creator because he makes this awesome little world, and he makes them ugly stick figures, so they kind of revolt against them, right? So again, a cute story, but I'm okay with being cute. Doesn't really matter to me. These are the stories I enjoy telling, and so I'm gonna go out there. I'm gonna put it out there, and then it's gonna be my first Kickstarter. And then I have my big one is if I get to 200 backers, I'm gonna do a karaoke night at my backers' request.
Oh my God.
You like it?
And see, that's a really, really good idea because at Kickstarters, you need to keep your stretch goals affordable.
Yep.
That's a great stretch goal.
Yeah, I will murder like 10 songs just for your, and you're smiling because it's like, so I did a karaoke night like a few weeks back, like a few months ago, and I was looking at some of the requests. So one of my sister, my sweet sister, recommended "Feel Like a Woman" by Shania Twain, and it only got worse, from there. But I was like, you know what? Why not? If you make it fun, you show up, you're willing to do these things, people notice.
Yeah. Well, as long as we're talking about Kickstarters, can I plug mine?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, but yeah, I was gonna wait. I was gonna wait till we got to the end of this chat. But hey, if you want to do it now, go do it now.
Oh, we're how long is the chat? It's like an hour in.
Well, I know. I hadn't decided whether when we were gonna end this bad boy, but I didn't feel like we were quite there yet. But I mean, if we want. I mean, it's up to you. I mean, I realize this is. I mean, I don't know what's going on with your holiday plans at this moment in time, but I mean, I figured something told me about another 20 minutes or so. But hey,
right.
whatever you want to do,
No, that sounds fine with me.
Yeah,
I didn't know how. I should have asked before we started.
So I usually I guarantee myself an hour, and then I kind of just get a feel where the conversation goes. I get the feeling we're not done exactly. So I was like, but somewhere between the next an hour and an hour and a half, I figured is when we were going to call it, because then I need to eat because I got to do another. Then I do my official 900th episode in about a couple hours. So.
How did you get into doing podcasts in the first place?
By accident.
It was one of those things where you fell into it again, huh?
So I've been doing interviews for 20 years. 20 years, right? So I mean, you can just tell based on our conversation. We've talked about all kinds of things, even though we haven't really talked about books much in one sense. In another sense, we've talked about books plenty. We've talked about publishing and getting out there and getting out of your comfort zone, which has been the theme of this conversation. But that's what we felt like talking about today. And that's fine. I've been doing interviews for 20 years or 25 years almost. So it's like I'm pretty comfortable talking to people. So I finally get a phone like this. I'm like, I used to do writing interviews. Go to my blog, go back to my blog back far enough, you will see written interviews from me for some decently well-known people too. But the thing is, I hear out, and just because I don't normally do this, but I'm just going to do this real quick for the audience here. And basically, here is my webpage. So if you want to go back far enough, you will see some of those interviews.
I looked it up the other day, by the way.
Yeah. I got a lot of
the archive.
Yeah, I do. I've been doing it for a long time, right? So go into the archive stuff, you'll see some of those written interviews. So I finally get a phone. I'm like, yes, I don't have to memorize this stuff. I was used to do it by memory, write it down, send it to people, that kind of thing. So I interviewed Robert J. Sawyer. He is a science fiction author based out of Canada. He's done pretty good for himself. And I went in a conference room. I used this. And when it came out, someone asked him, "What did you do?" Let's say, I was going to interview Josh for his podcast. I did not have a podcast at that moment in time. It's like, hey, wait, something just kind of clicked. And then I've honestly never had an issue getting guests ever. And I'm not talking I interviewed Terry Moore back in the first 100 episodes. I interviewed Riley Rossmo, another very well-known comic artist today. first 100 episodes. Jenny DeMatteis is in that first 100 as well. So, I mean, it's not, so I was able to, and all I did was go around and ask people for shit. And again, it's the other thing too. Don't be
You
afraid
have
to
to
ask.
ask. Don't be afraid to ask. Exactly right. Put yourself out there and say, would you do this? What's the worst they're gonna do? Say no. Okay.
Well, that's just it. That's just it, right? Or they'll block you on Twitter, which is okay. Which it's a very creative no. I'll give them that, right? So, but I have no fear. If you put yourself out there, this is how I look at it, right? If you're not afraid to fail and you're not afraid to succeed, that's another thing too. It's the same. It's a similar fear, but it's not quite the same thing. You're not afraid to fail. You're not afraid to succeed. What tends to happen is people will, again, they admire moxie. Hey, wait, you're gonna ask me to do? I told her off the air, I was saying this. Kevin Eastman was going to be my 900th episode. That was my plan. I didn't get him for my 900th episode, but it looks like I have an opportunity to interview him next month. I just asked.
Yeah,
that's it. That's it. That's all it takes. Sometimes it's all it takes. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do for episode 1000 if I have my way. I am challenging Brandon Sanderson to a Magic the Gathering match.
Ooh.
I've actually officially went to his agent, and that's the thing. I'm issuing him like an open challenge. Why not?
Why not?
Exactly. Why not? Right? That's the thing. Like you cannot be afraid to put yourself out there. I would go so far as to say this. You got to stand for something in this world. Whatever that is, you must stand for it, right? Stand for something. And even if people disagree with you, they will respect the fact that you stand for something. But the other thing is you got to be brave enough to go out there and say, here I am, good, bad, or indifferent. And what you find is certain opportunities go away and certain other opportunities come into be. And who knows, right? I embrace my accidents, right? Because it's just like, there's more nuggets. Chocolate chip cookies was an accident, right?
I read that.
Yeah, chocolate chip cookies was an accident. Someone accidentally put chocolate chips in the cookie dough, and the rest is history. But it's an accident. Sticky notes are an accident. Some of the best treasures in the world were discoveries just by doing things and getting unexpected results. I unexpectedly got traditionally published by accident, simply because I put myself out there. That is a strange world.
I read a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People by, I can't remember his first name. It was written by Carnegie, the same Carnegie that built libraries all over. And one of the things that he really pushes in that book is that people want to talk about themselves. You know, all you have to do is be willing to listen. Everybody loves to talk about themselves. So if you give them the opportunity, half the time, that's all you need to do is, would you come and talk? Would you come and talk on my show? Tell us about yourself. Most people would love to come and talk about themselves. That's what they're all about. Most people love to just natter on about themselves.
Well, it's the psychology of it. Why do people want to talk about themselves? Because in this world, one of the hardest things and even with everything you've done, I'm sure there's those moments, right? Do I make a difference doing what I'm doing? Like we all have that.
I suffer hugely from the imposter syndrome, but most artists do.
Yeah. I'll tell you my little secret to defeating my imposter. I or at least keeping him honest. That's how I do. I try to keep my imposter honest, right? But the thing is, that's the thing, right? People want to talk about themselves. Like we've talked a little bit that like we've touched on some of the stuff you've done, some of it vaguely. I was hoping next time we do this, maybe we'll have to do a very specific. Okay, we're just gonna break down all the cool shit you've done over the years. But because you've done a lot of cool shit, like 30 years in the industry, you've done some really cool stuff, like with Malibu, you've done DC Marvel, you had a career in comics most people would envy, right? Just most people, right? The handful of people that don't envy you, right, also are your peers, your true peers, right? They're like, hey, but they'll still say, you did some cool fucking shit, right? And that's a compliment to you. But there are moments, even with you, with everything you've done, you go, hope people get what I'm all about. And that's why people want to talk about themselves. It's not because it's not, I would, the only thing I would disagree with Mr. Carnegie, it's not necessarily a love of talking about themselves.
It's an affirmation.
Yes, that's what it's about. Does what we do matter?
Mm-hmm.
Because we all, no matter who you are, there are moments you wake up in the morning, you're like, what the fuck am I doing?
Yep. You need an affirmation that, yes, I do count. What I do does count. Because I don't know if anybody else out there that's listening suffers from this, but a lot of artists suffer from imposter syndrome, where you have this huge fear that one of these days, all of your peers are going to find out you're actually a fake. You've just been faking it all for 30 plus years.
I have come to terms with my imposter. So this show won an award way back in its early run. When I was actually thinking of walking away from the show, I got nominated. It was like literally, it was like I read the email. I was like, "Is this real?" Like right, because you just don't expect it. But what I learned, this is what I learned, and this is something because I was dealing with that imposter thing when I was getting that attention. And it was this: I got here for a reason. Right. No. This sounds, yes, absolutely. But the thing is, I got here for a reason. I worked at this. I've toiled, I've struggled, I've starved, I've done all these things. That's how did I get here? And I asked, okay, what do I do so well that people keep coming back? I have a big mouth. I'm good at it. And it's right. And I'm laughing. You're laughing, but it's true. People come because they feel like they can talk to me about whatever they want to talk to me about. And I'm cool with it. I might disagree with you, and I'll disagree with you on the air. I don't care. But it's not personal in the sense that you're free to be yourself, and I am going to let you be yourself. I will, if I challenge you, it's only because I think, that maybe we should just clarify some things, or I may be trying to understand something. And if I understand it, cool. Right? Yeah. Ask Author Goddess. She's been on the show before. She'll tell you, right?
It's totally faking Hyde's stack of published books, she says.
That's right.
Yeah, that's exactly it. You would think that I've been doing this for long enough that I would get over the imposter syndrome. No, it never goes away, because all you have to do is go online and see somebody that you admire posting their stuff, and I'm going, why am I even doing this? Why do I even bother?
So fear of success and fear of failure are the same fear, but they're just two sides of the same coin. Do you know what actually the real fear of success and failure is? Fear of change.
That's a very good observation. That is really.
Yeah. No, it's a fear of change. Mm-hmm. If you feel fear, the big fear of failure is that nothing you do matters, and you'll still fail no matter what. The fear of success is, okay, I succeed. Now what? What does that actually look like? Holy shit.
Then what?
Yeah, exactly. And there's the same fear. It's a fear of change. So what you have to be honest. So you got to be honest with yourself. You want to change, because otherwise you wouldn't be doing this. That's
true.
That's right. You got to be honest with yourself. You want to change. You're a little afraid. Like I fear can be a cage, but it's also a door.
It's a motivator.
Well, it's a motivator, but it's also the door, because on the other side of fears are often than not what we really want. Are we willing to face that fear to go forward? That is the real question with us all. Going back to my buddy in his comfort zone, right? There's a fear of the unknown. And legitimate fear. Will I make as much money doing something else? Right? Hold on. Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't matter. Like, what, you're there. People are here to see you. So you got them. Now all you gotta do is just not mess up too badly. Or if you do mess up, have fun with it.
She says she shakes, my hands shake. Yeah. Really, really bad when I'm on.
So true story. I did a panel about podcasting on the last When Words Collide thing I did. I was late by like 3 minutes. I was upstairs drinking with a romance author and her pro wrestler husband. So we were just having a good time. I was like, oh shit, I got a presentation. So I was late. So I was like, I'm just gonna fucking be honest about it. I'm so sorry, guys. I was having a little too much fun drinking. They all laughed, got right into it, right? Don't lie to your audience. It's super important. It's why I am who I am. Just
I've always been really honest with people, about pretty much everything about my career. I'll tell them how I got started. I didn't struggle like a lot of people did. I fell into it backwards, and I went out to San Diego 1 year, found out what it was all about, came back the next year and got a job. And people are like, what?
Yeah.
The second time you went, to anything, you just got a job?
You were ready for it.
Yeah, I didn't struggle. I didn't starve. I didn't, yeah.
Well, the thing is, there's a lot of, again, going back to that fear of success or fear of change. You have to also come to the realization that there are parts of you that can get in the way of your success. That's the last part of the imposter syndrome. I asked myself 3 questions. How did I get here? What do I do so well? And what could get in my way? There's a certain self-awareness that when you start, you're hungry and you just want stuff, right?
Yeah. Yes. And she makes a really, really good point. I have to force myself to do podcasts and go to shows because I'm terrified of making a fool of myself, which I do regularly anyway. So
So that fear was destroyed for me at 12 years old. That was completely destroyed. So I ended up, I was going, this is, of all things, French class. I get up, I'm wearing my t-shirt, shorts. Puberty just happened to want to rear its ugly head right as I was walking up to the front of the class. And I'm like, oh God, now I should have been smart and gone back the other way. I was not that smart. But after that experience, like here's the thing. So it was completely like, oh my God, but the worst things kind of happened to me already. So it's like, shrug.
Hubs goes with me to my shows.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
definitely.
Fair.
Yeah.
That's fair, Author Goddess. Whatever works for you. Me, there's not much in this world left that truly terrifies me. I always get nervous, but I don't get.
I fear my brain going blank when I'm talking about something. Oh yeah, I went out with, what was his name? I do that constantly, and it is a horrible fear. And you would think that at this point in my life, I could just sit back on my laurels and coast.
No, because you don't want to do more things.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
But age is just a number, really. I'm 63, and I retired from the mogul world when I was 60, and I'm like, now what? Now is the time to fly, because I have all this time on my hands, and I want to do something I've never done before. And one of the worst part about doing my own book is that I had to learn how to promote it. I hate promotion. I really do. But it's a necessary part of it,
Yeah, because again, if you're not the most excited person about your work, something's wrong. That's something, right? And it's a subconscious thing everybody else picks up on. I'm not going to talk about my work. As you can see it with me, I have a big mouth. I'll talk about anything, right? There's just a quiet little confidence in what I've done.
But you really got to go out there and you got to push.
Oh yeah, you do. No, but again, you have to
get in people's face, And that is like a totally against my nature, but it's necessary.
There's 2 ways to doing it. There's one. Okay, there's the world you're building, right. Yeah. Actually, I'm going to say this. Author Goddess, there's tons of brilliant books out there. Tons of them. Right? How am I going to know?
Yeah. Which ones?
But how am I going to know you're out there? Because your problem is me. Your problem is me. I am not afraid to talk about my stuff. So therefore, you must talk about your stuff. Right? It's all good. But I mean, it's just one of those. It's one of those things like I've learned in this life. So I try to build myself up, and I try to build, and I build myself, and then I build the work I'm working on, because I find, again, the work is how people support you. But again, how to make friends and influence people. If people know who you are, that's even better than people knowing your work.
If promoting is my least favorite part of creating, but you have to really believe in your product and what you have, your creation, to go out there and promote it to
Are
strangers. And
are you?
that's I do believe in my stuff. So it doesn't matter how uncomfortable I am.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah, I believe in my product so strongly that I'm willing to put myself out there on the cross.
So I love old school pro wrestling, like 1980s,
Oh boy.
90s.
Off the top rope.
No, so my favorite stuff was Mean Gene Okerlund backstage interviewing these guys. Okay, and my favorite of all time is Macho Man Randy Savage.
Oh, my hubby used to be in the so I know who you're talking about.
Thinking. Ooh, yeah, right. But I do mosh.
Hulk Hogan.
Right, but no, but Savage. See, younger me loved Hogan. Older me loves Savage, because here's the thing. Okay, I realize this. Pro wrestling is marketing in a nutshell. That era especially is marketing in a nutshell. On the one hand, you look at all those guys back in the day, these larger than life characters wearing virtually nothing, talking about kicking somebody's ass in this arena at this time.
Talking trash.
It's the stupidest thing in the world if you sit there and think about it.
Yeah.
However, they believed in what they were doing. And the ones that were really, really good at it made millions.
They were passionate about it.
Macho Man believed who he was. He knew who he was. He knew who he wasn't. Well, see, here's the deal. It's storytelling 101. I have a character. Who is this guy? What does he want? And why should I care? And those old promos, if they depend on who they are, you got that story. Savage was my favorite because he could do both. He could be really intense. He could talk about his opponent, or he could be goofy as fuck. The cream rises to the top is one of my favorite promos ever. It's Macho Man showing up with coffee creamers of all things. He's just throwing them around, and it is nuts. But there's just a kernel of truth in it, and it just right.
Brilliant.
Yeah, it was brilliant. Well, that's not the lesson. That's not the lesson. The lesson is this. They put themselves out there. They've made a connection with people in their own ways. And if you can make a connection, a genuine connection with people, even if it's just to a persona, it can be to your books, it can be all these things. If you make that connection, people will invest in you.
There's no such thing as bad publicity.
Yes. Donald Trump's living proof of that.
We won't even talk about that.
No. Okay, we'll do Howard Stern, because Howard Stern was the originator of this. Okay, he was the absolute originator of this, right? Howard Stern figured this out in the 90s, that it wasn't the people. So people that loved his show would listen to his show for 45 minutes on average. The people that hated his show would listen to it for an hour and a half. See, this is again. I'm not talking about Donald Trump, the politician. Donald Trump, the manipulator. He's the best because the people that hate him the most make him the most money. That's the thing, right? That's the thing. It's not, and again, it's that connection with people he has. People that like him. People that hate him really hate him to such a degree that they are ones that put his name out there. I actually pointed out somebody, like, she was actually feeding his agenda that way. It hit her. Because it was like, wait, yeah, every time you make fun of him, he makes money. He doesn't give a shit. Right?
I have seen that happen to other actors and actresses.
Yeah.
They're haters. They will get online and just trash them. But the thing that they don't realize is that they're putting that name out there 10 times more than the fans of these
Yeah.
people are.
Yeah. No, that's like, no, it's again, it's about connection. Do I understand what this person wants? Do I understand on some level what this person's about? If I can do that, I can form a connection with them, right? Even if it's a false pretense, doesn't matter. I've made that connection. And once I've made that connection, I will invest. That is marketing 101. Pro wrestling did it first. Howard Stern took it to the next level. Well, your problem is your problem is the problem is you're not willing to put yourself out there to connect. That's the problem, right? That's the real problem. It doesn't have to be evil. Just stand for something, right? If you stand for look, if we talk
Trust me,
about
somebody out there is going to hate you because that's just the way human nature is.
yes, exactly. But stand for something. Stand for something. Be your authentic self. There are people who think I'm nuts. And you know what? I probably am. I shrug. Right? Right? Oh, hell. It's okay becoming a villain, just being true to who you are. That's the you'll become a villain to somebody. That's just the way it is. People will part from you, people will disagree with you, people will think you will put you in this little box. But if you play the cards right, people will also invest in you even more if they dislike you. Or if they love you, same thing. Doesn't matter. Make that connection. That is marketing 101. Who are you? What do you want? Why should people care? If you can answer all three of those questions, you can probably find an audience. And some of it will love you, some of it will hate you. It doesn't matter, right? The ones that hate you will actually exploit. You could probably exploit them more. And that is Howard Stern figured this out in the 90s. Trump perfected it, but Stern figured it out. Yeah, so.
Yep. And again, it all goes back to there's no such thing as negative publicity because any kind of publicity is going to promote you.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't, and again, and the people that advertise you make their money off you too. So it's a weird relationship there.
Do
But
you know what happens when I read a negative story about somebody? The first thing I do is I don't know who this person is. I'm going to go Google.
exactly, I'm past that because I realize no. I got more important shit to do. Again, I know how the game's played. You're not getting me. You're not getting me that way. If I right, you're not getting me that way. Now there are people I despise. I'm human, but by and large, it's like if I know how this game is played, so it's like you're not gonna get. I'm not gonna fall for this shit too much. Twitter is an interesting rabbit hole sometimes, but yes.
You would probably have a good secondary career as somebody's agent.
Yeah. Yeah.
You should agent people.
I've thought about it. It's the filtration process that would drive me nuts. That's the part. One of the things I've learned as a freelancer, that's the thing I've learned. Oh, I build people up very well. I could definitely get people the opportunities. I'm pretty sure of it. But the thing is, it's a filtration process. So I'm a big fan of, I don't know if you know this person, and I don't know if you read it much in terms of actual like novels, but I'm a big fan of people like Marissa Mayer, for example. I'm a big fan of them because they're cool, they have their shit together, they want this, they're hungry, right? It's so hard to find. I've interviewed so many people, right? I can literally make, you know this, you've been in this business long enough, right? You can tell based on their personality and their habits how far they'll go.
Sometimes, yeah.
No, you can read it, right? It's not the mistakes you make. It's your willingness to put yourself in the uncomfortable positions to improve.
I've also seen people that I thought were just absolutely fantastic and would go far, and then they blew themselves up.
Yep. Again, that's a personality thing, right? There's a personality thing, right? Sometimes it's the politics of the day, but more often than not, it's who we are that makes or breaks us. This is something I've made mistakes too, lots of them, but they made me who I am now. I'm not necessarily the same person. Now, some people will always look at me as who I was, but there's always a chance to start anew too. But you got to be willing to make those changes and grow. And what I have found when I've done client work is how serious are my clients, right? That's
Mhm.
what I come down to,
Oh,
right?
I'm sorry.
Yeah. So agenting would be the same thing. There's lots of people go, hey, I want to do this. Do you really? Do you really? Right? If I'm going to be hassled by thousands of people going, hey, I want to get published and blah, 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 blah.
What are you willing to do to get there?
Mm-hmm.
Because it
That's it.
can't be all on you. Yeah. A lot of problem with creatives is that they want to do their creative thing and then hand it over to somebody else and they do all the hard work. They are not willing to share in the load.
Yeah. No, like every day, I mean, you've seen this on my Facebook. I advertise, whether it's a motivation. I haven't done as much podcasting this month because it's December.
Mhm.
But I'm going to ramp it up next month. I already got my first week of guests nailed down. I'm going to, by the end of this week, I'm going to
I
have.
taught myself TikTok last month and I've been posting every day. But
I actually had lunch with somebody who's a book coach, and she's actually got a TikTok and she's grown her follow. Like she's got the
yeah, that's
person
just it. I look at my first TikTok and my followers every single day. My TikTok following, the views go up.
Mhm.
Like, oh, I never
I,
wanted to TikTok, and here I am.
But the thing is, it's part of the game. Now I gotta actually play with TikTok seriously, not just putting clips of my podcast on there, but I mean seriously. I have a few hundred. I think almost a couple hundred followers, but I could do better if I play with the algorithms a little bit and did some stuff work. It's a worthwhile investment and endeavor to do so.
Right.
Right? It's a
I think I
worthwhile.
have I think I have 8 or 9 different social media platforms now, and I spend time every single morning on them.
Yeah, for me, it's 4. And I'm not. It's maybe 5 if I can count Mastodon. Mastodon kind of feels, and Hive kind of feel like works in progress, not
Yeah,
necessarily.
I just joined Hive here not too long ago.
Yeah, they feel like works in progress. They don't necessarily feel like completed works yet. So I'm not necessarily as engaged there as maybe I should be, but it's also I only have so much time in the day. That's just reality too. But Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and TikTok. So
Pinterest, TikTok, Hive. I know there's one more. I can't remember. I have them all lined up on my
you got 7 because I mentioned TikTok and I mentioned TikTok in the 5. So yeah, but it says you have 7 for sure. But I mean that doesn't that's cool. It's about what you can. There's also there's a reality of what you can maintain and what you niche. TikTok's worth playing with, right? It's worth playing with. I'm probably going to do that a little more seriously in February, not January. January, I got that Dr. Seuss thing to edit. I gotta get myself one more client, basically. And when I get one more client, I'm good, and I can actually start doing. Barb, I think it's fair to say I have a pretty big pile of stuff on my plate this year. So I mean, that's the thing. Like, there's a hard balance you got to kind of work on.
Mhm.
But the important thing is you get yourself out there, and I say that possibly author goddess. The important thing is you got to find a way to make it yours. That's the important thing. Make it yours, right? Make it yours. TikTok is literally entertainment, so have fun with it, right? So, right, have fun with the sound effects, have fun with the music, have fun with keeping up with those algorithms. That's the thing. It's like it's gonna take me work to figure this out, but it's like a video game. You figure out, oh, this is the pattern.
I've had to learn so much over the last couple of years that I'm an old dog, and teaching me all these new tricks is challenging, but in a way, it's kind of fun too. Uh, you know, I thought to myself, I'll never be able to figure out how to do videos and post them on TikTok. You know, if it's not like live shots, but putting together a compilation of artwork and making it blend into, it's actually a lot of fun, and I'm getting
Yes.
better and better at it.
I've been doing video seriously for the last year. I did it for a company, an immigration company, and then I've done it. I'm doing it right now. I'm doing a massage therapy show for a client. So I'm actually putting background music, like voiceovers, and
Mhm.
I'm actually putting a very full-fledged, like, this is a 20-minute show, not like a 1-minute commercial. It's like a 20-minute show. It's like it's a real, it's I directed it. It was just like, but yeah, this is what I'm doing. So it's like, yeah, you're constantly learning, and what you
Yeah.
really what you realize is, in one sense, it's all the same thing, storytelling, at the end of the
Mhm.
day.
It's
But
kind it's kinda like when I decided to go digital, I got myself an iPad and I downloaded Procreate and like, now what? Okay, I'm gonna try to push this button, see what happens. And I just, you
yeah,
know, you just teach yourself. Watch some tutorials on YouTube
YouTube
and,
is
you
the
know,
best
universe
university.
yes.
Yes,
University of YouTube is the best.
yes, it's how you learn. Like, you almost don't need a course. And I said, and author guys saying what I said, people don't invest in information; they invest in you. That's the bottom line. The information has to be good, but it's you they invest in.
Mhm. Push buttons and remember most things can be undone. Yeah, yeah,
Control Z is everybody's best friend.
yep.
Everybody's best
Start
friend.
playing around. What is that? What I'll do if I do this? And oh my God, that's a great thing.
Yeah, but at some point here. So you guys are going back on track. So let's get towards the end of this bad boy. Because I also
Yes.
here's the impression. If I do find my way with my van in Florida with ice cream music and stuff, would you like to come and do or Wisconsin, it's ice cream music and stuff, I should say in your case. Would you like to come on, eat ice cream and drink booze with me on the show and have fun?
Oh God, two of my favorite things: ice cream and booze.
so, so
Yes,
so
that would be an automatic yes.
so Bailey's and mint ice cream together is actually wonderful. Just saying. I
All
just
right, you're talking about having to fail to learn things. Teaches you to. Well, we had done 20 Kickstarters with Silverline and 20 successful Kickstarters. So we kept trying different formulas to see because we have so many books, and we were trying different formulas to see what would work and what wouldn't work. So in November, we we did a completely new thing. Invites myself to ice cream. Oh,
see again. I real quick before we get to your story, everybody again. Do you want? We're all kids at heart. Do you want to eat ice cream and Bailey's and just bullshit for an hour? I'll do that. Will you
well, I'll
do it
do
with a
that.
camera? Will you do it with a camera?
Mhm.
Yes. Sweet.
I'll make a fool of myself. I'm all down. I'm down with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, and author goddess at some when I'm about a month down the road, I'm going to be very serious about booking dates for myself, and when that starts to happen, I'll talk to you. Okay. All right. Keep
Back
going with
to
your
the
story.
failure. Yeah, we had 20 successful Kickstarters, and so we decided to try something new for the 21st Kickstarter. Tried to push 5 books on one Kickstarter, and it didn't work. And we could see by halfway through that it was not going to work, and it was because only 2 of the books were getting most of the attention, and the other 3 books were like nothing.
Hmm.
They weren't getting any love. So we canceled the Kickstarter in the middle, and we went back to what we knew would
Would
work.
work. Yeah.
Yep. And so we're going to relaunch. We're going to relaunch my book Divinity, which there's books 1 and 2,
Yeah.
and it's been incredibly well received. People will come up to me at shows and say, "Yeah, we were talking about your book the other day in the comic store." I'm like, "Wow, that is the best compliment you could give me." Um, and we're going to kickstart my book Divinity and Roland's book Trumps, which is another book that has gotten a lot of traction. So we're going to do 2 incredibly popular books in one Kickstarter, and we'll have original art for sale and all kinds of other goodies, and that will be launching January 3rd. So you can click the link that Josh has just provided you to get signed up for a notification, a pre-launch notification. You'll get notified when we go live.
Yeah.
So this is, I love this book. I don't know if I mentioned this last time. I don't remember because I've told this story so many times. This book has an incredible amount of meaning to me. Um, my brother was diagnosed with cancer a few years ago, and it was already stage 4 when he was diagnosed. It was traumatizing to the extreme because my brother and my sister and I are extremely close. And one night I had this dream about this girl that could heal, and the problems that resulted from this, and the people who wanted to get their hands on her. And I woke up in the morning, and the entire story was in my head. I mean, fully fleshed out and everything. And I thought to myself, would I, if I were put in a similar situation, if I knew somebody who could actually heal, how far would I go? How far would I actually go to get my hands on somebody to heal my brother? And I realized, to my horror, that I would go pretty damn far. Morals be damned.
Yep.
Love makes you do a lot of crazy, crazy shit. And so the book became reality, and it's a passion project because it touches on love and family, while at the same time it's an action story. It's kind of like a cross between The Fugitive and Firestarter, only the little girl heals instead of starts fires. But can the healing also be offensive as well as defensive? We don't know yet how far her powers can go, but she's on the run. And I was fortunate enough that the first issue came out before my brother passed. I spent the last months of his life with him, and he was shocked that his situation brought about a book. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No. That's human nature.
It makes you examine. It makes you examine yourself. Like, what would I do? And I don't think I would put a limit on what I would do.
So my sister and I were walking in Calgary on 17th Avenue, and this guy approaches her, and he's a little dangerous. Like just something like not someone who.
Give
So
me off vibes.
yeah, just getting off vibes. So then he proceeds to try to put his arm around my sister. So I'm already looking at him, so I'm gonna let her try to deal with this. But in my mind, I've already decided to kill him. Like it's already I've already decided it. It's already in my head. It's just like he's gonna make a move. I looked at him. It's like, oh, it's your move. What are you gonna do? So I let her do it because again, she's a grown woman. She's capable of doing things on her own. But if he decided to be insistent, I might be in jail right now. But and again, I was perfectly okay with that. It was just in that moment. I just assessed the situation. It was just like, yeah, yeah.
My daughter asked me one time, what would I do if she were ever in a situation where she was raped? And I said, well, it would involve an electric knife and a blender, and I would be in jail.
Yeah. Well, it like I said, in that situation, yeah, it depends. Like I said, if I've seen it. Like there's real situations. Like I remember this back in like late '90s, early 2000s. There is this guy talks about a story about him murdering his son's killer because his son's killer literally went up to him and said, "Hey, I killed your son." So he murdered him right there and then. Like murdered the guy. Cops let him go because it was just like, I'd have done the same damn thing. What do you want, right? Right. What do you want? It just was like, well, they said it. He reacted like I don't. The thing is, our reactions are there for a reason, and understanding what those reactions are, I don't necessarily think they're good or bad necessarily. It's like anything else. That desire to protect what we love is generally a good thing. but it can go into dark places sometimes. But
Mhm.
in our heads, and just how we're wired, if it makes our people we love a safer place, we don't have an issue doing those things,
Yep.
right?
And in Divinity, her older brother, he's 13 years older than her,
Yep.
has to come home and take care of her, and he's very uh, bitter because he wanted the military was going to be his life. He really wanted that. That was his whole life. So he barely knows this girl,
Mm-hmm.
his half sister, and he's very bitter that he has to come home and take care of her until she's in danger. And then all of a sudden he realizes what boundaries he's capable of breaking to keep her safe. And during the course of the book, you not only get the action and the danger, but you also find out boundaries that they're willing to cross, and you learn that they need to learn how to become a family. So it's a little bit of everything. It's not just a straight up action adventure, but it's also got family in it and a story about how far you would be willing to go.
Yeah, and I mean, that's it, right? And again, there's a very human answer. Well, and like I said, but there are points, right? There's a points where it's anger, like it was
Mhm.
just being angry in a moment, and then there's like serious lines being crossed, and it's a very, very, very tricky balance. But that sounds really cool. And your Kickstarter is going up on the 3rd. I have followed your Kickstarter. Now I am in Canada, so my money is, how shall we put this? You know, that kind of thing. But
We do ship internationally.
yes, I know, and then that also is part of the reason why I'm going like this right now. I've actually quietly, one of the things I've quietly done with a couple of my Kickstarter that I backed is it's like, hey, listen, if I get a couple issues at once, could you be able to give me a break on the shipping?
Well, I'll talk to you offline.
Okay. 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 It sounds like a deal. All right. But yes, see, folks, like I said, business, like I said, connection creates opportunities. It always does.
That's right.
Right. Right. But goes on a 3rd. So before we wrap up, final wrap up, and we'll do a final promotion. The last thing we want to talk about before we go is from the Kickstarter lesson. You're always learning. You're always not afraid to fail, to fall on your face. But are you going to try? Are you going to keep experimenting on a couple of ideas on Kickstarter this year as a comic company, or you yourself? Like you guys are going to do, but
We've learned that we need to pare down the number of books that we try to kickstart for one thing, and we've got some feelers out to other entities about maybe expanding our base, but I can't talk about it.
no problem. So you are trying to take over the world. Okay,
Oh
gotcha.
yeah.
So see, Autographs, if you want to know evil plotting to take over the world, see, this is the person you should be following. I don't necessarily want world domination. I just want to be allowed to go wherever I please. Not quite the same thing, right?
We, yeah, we're gonna put DC and Marvel out of business. That's our whole plot.
Okay.
That's our whole plot.
That oddly might be more possible today than ever, but that's another
Right.
conversation for another day.
Another day.
Another day. So okay, so do the big pitch. I'll link to the Kickstarter and we'll call it a day. So what's your do the big pitch?
All right, folks. I really want you to try out my book, Divinity. This is an amazing book. I can tell you right now, the positive reviews have been staggering. Maggie Thompson from Comics Buyers Guys loves it. Kevin Van Hook, the creator of Bloodshot, loves it. They've given me amazing reviews. So go to the Kickstarter, sign up to be notified when it goes live, and have fun. There's all kinds of wonderful art available, and the books are to die for.
Yes, and the link is right here. And I did follow it, like I said. So for everybody watching, this is Barbara. So one day we'll talk about your books, whether on the show or in person. One day we'll talk about everything you've done in the past because you've had a hell of a career. How can people? Oh, by the way, one last thing. How do people best find you? They want to just talk to you and say
Ah,
hi.
yes. Well, fortunately, I am the only Barbara Kaalberg on the internet. So if you punch in my name, you're going to find me one way or another. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. Now I'm on TikTok. I'm on Hive. I'm on Pinterest. And I know there's another one I'm forgetting.
There should, if this you have a drinking game. So that's all
Yes.
your social media you're on and drink. By the time you get to the
Yes.
end, you're like, I'm just God. Right? But anyways,
But
This is
yeah.
Barbara Kaalberg. She is legitimately, she is one of the greats in the industry. People should definitely check her out. I'm cool that even after all this time, she's still doing new and wonderful things. Go check out Divinity. Go check out Trumps right now. And folks, I have to bail from this conversation. Unfortunately, I said Barbara was like, "Yeah, thank God," right at the same time. But no, I'm going to be back a little later today because I'm going to do my official 900th episode drawing Ninja Turtles. So if you guys want to come watch or even be a part of it, to come watch and be a part of it, I will definitely mention Paul Gomez is joining me. Britton Summers is joining me, and who knows, maybe more people might be joining me too. I'll have to put the invite out there. If anyone wants to come draw, this is going to be kind of a fun one. Like I said, my original plan was Kevin Eastman. I got it just not when I thought I'd get it. So it worked out. So I must have just drawn Ninja Turtles as a way to celebrate. So for everybody watching, everybody listening, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Stay inspired. Keep shining in the dark. And I will see you next time.